Hey everybody, a little something different today. I did a consultation with Patty Lager of Dr. Morris Health Club. She's not fully affiliated with them exactly now. She kind of left and she's doing something on her own. But she does still recommend a lot of his stuff, and you can actually sign up to get a free consultation with her. Actually, not a free one. I think you have to pay a consultation with her at well, I'll put her email in the notes below, and also you can sign up with Dr. Morse directly and get one of his people to do a consultation as well. So it's whatever you want, and I'll put a link to Dr. Morse down below. But of course, many of you are anarchists, and they probably prefer to do it with an anarchist, and Patty is one. So you can do it directly with her, and she will actually do with you what she did with me, which I'm going to put the entire consultation, which is about an hour long or even longer, down after this intro. So you can watch the entire consultation I had. You can see how it all works, what she suggested for me based on what I had, and looked at my irises, and I did consultation based on what she saw in my irises. And at the end, she gave me what she suggested I actually do. So I'll put a link to that also in the notes so you can see what she's suggested. She's suggested a number of herbs to improve my health based on what she was seeing in my what I said were some of my issues, and as well looking at my iris. So very interesting stuff. I find this stuff fascinating. So I'm going to be doing this entire thing that she suggested I do. So I'll let you guys know here on my personal channel how that all goes. So it'll probably take me a little while to get it all because I'm here in Mexico and it's kind of hard to get it into the country because of government thieves, as usual, and idiots trying to stop you from getting stuff you want and wanting to extort you on it. But I might get it when I'm in Europe in the next couple weeks, or I'll find a way for someone to smuggle it into the country, as I usually do. So check out the consultation if you're interested. It was really fascinating to me to find out all this stuff, to look into my eyes, and you can actually tell your health through your eyes, which, you know, general medical doctors don't know anything about any of this stuff, and they have the body totally wrong. And actually, I think it's on purpose. They want to get you sick. Your average doctor probably doesn't even know that, but they're absolute idiots. And you can check out my video, why haven't people started shooting doctors and dentists yet? And it's true. They're absolute morons. And they don't actually look into anything. And what they're told to sell is stuff that kills you. So avoid that at all costs. And if you have some health issues, look into getting a consultation with Patty directly, or with someone at Dr. Morse's sort of clinic or whatever they do there. Again, I'll put the links to all that down below. So here was my consultation with Patty.
Is I ask you to give me an overview. I know you have in your health questionnaire a list of some of your major complaints, but I like to hear it from the client's own words, in their own words. So if you can just kind of give me an overview of exactly what your main health concerns are, why you're scheduling an appointment, some of your goals health-wise. Let's just start there.
Sure. You want some of my complaints? Well, I don't like the government.
Yeah, we can include that. That's always that's the first time I've ever heard a client say that. So I concur. I'll put hates government.
But no, the reason I'm doing this is basically just kind of half curiosity and half wanting to improve if I do have some issues. As you probably know, I kind of changed my life in the last year and went from drinking, smoking, eating crap, not exercising, and feeling like really bad, being depressed, to not doing any of those things anymore. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I exercise all the time, I eat quite good, almost pretty much vegan, and a lot of it raw. A fair amount of fruit. So I've been doing that for, well, pretty much, I guess I stopped drinking a few months ago. So I've been doing this pretty steady now for a few months. And so, yeah, I just want to see what you think, see if there's anything that isn't working that well that maybe I can improve using herbs and stuff like that. just sort of see what you think of my general situation right now. And yeah, if there's anything that I can improve by changing certain things, whether it be diet or exercise or whatever, that I want to do it. So just general sort of checkup, really.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, the diet, in my opinion, is foundational, and you've been eating a lot of fruit, which is great, and sticking with less dense foods, so staying away from the animal products, and even in the plant kingdom, the heavier foods, like the starches, even the fattier foods, the oils, those can be problematic as well. So when we look at a diet that is health promoting, we want one that is going to be energizing and allow for that freedom of movement of all of the internal bodily fluids, of the nervous system, of that electrical signaling, so that our brain is communicating with every organ in our body and our sensory system is communicating back to the brain. So fruits are really at the top of the pyramid with regards to helping to increase vitality. So the more fruit you can incorporate into your life, that's always going to help you out. And I would tell anybody that if, you know, and I know you're not, but if you're dealing with, you know, monetary issues, you can't afford the herbs, start with the diet, because you can make so much headway with the diet alone. Vegetables are probably number 2 with regards to what type of food we eat. You want to make it, again, the lighter vegetables, the green leafy vegetables are great. They have a lot of protein, even though people think that we only get our protein from animal products. The greens have a nice array of amino acids, and they also have the correct ratio of all of the essential fatty acids. If you look at what essential fatty acids that humans need in their diet, the you know, the 3s, the 6s, the 9s, the omega-3s, the omega-6s, the omega-9s, they're in the perfect ratio in the green leafy vegetables. Whereas, you know, when you get them from other sources like fish products and things like that, they're not exactly in that ideal ratio. So fruits are number 1, then the green leafy vegetables, then other types of vegetable material. That's going to be the diet you want to stick with. And, you know, like for me, myself personally, with regards to diet, am I a fruitarian 100% of the time? No, I'm not. Just last night, Jeff and I, Jeff, we had Indian food. So we do splurge on other types of vegan food, but we try to keep it away from the animal products. But when I'm going and I'm hitting it hard and I want to have a nice detox, I want to address certain, you know, symptoms that I'm experiencing, I will definitely do fruit as much as possible. So what that might look like is maybe I'll do, like I did a couple of years ago, I did a 28-day grape fast where I did nothing but grapes for a month. And I was newly out of the hospital at that point, and I had surgery on my ankle, and I really wanted to clear out some of the drugs that were used on me when I was under the 3 surgeries they had to do to put my ankle back together, clear that out, and just clear out all of that nonsense that you accumulate through your life. So you can hit it hard for a short period of time, and then you can go back to eating other foods, but use this as a tool in your health. Use this as something you come back to when you really want to feel that vibrant life. And some people, they just eat this way as a norm. They eat just fruits and vegetables as a norm, and they experience high levels of health. So it's really in your control, and this is definitely a diet of freedom, which, you know, both of us are on board with. So I'm going to start with your health questionnaire and go over a few things that I noted there, and then we'll look at the iris analysis and see what the iris is telling us about your state of health right now. So you got your blood pressure taken, and 110/60, so that's a pretty good blood pressure. When we look at blood pressure, the top number, which is the systolic number, Dr. Morse describes that as the number that represents the health of our adrenal glands. And then the bottom number, which is the diastolic number, Dr. Morse correlates to the kidneys. Now, if we look at the allopathic way of describing blood pressure, systolic is basically the pressure in the blood vessel when the heart is contracting, when the ventricles are pumping blood out into our blood vessels. That's the pressure felt in those blood vessels. Whereas the bottom number is what pressure the blood vessels feel when the heart is relaxed, when it's not actively pumping blood out. But like I said, we like those numbers because it does tell us how the adrenal glands and the kidneys are working. And those two organs are really important in our body when we talk about detoxification. We'll start with the kidneys, which Dr. Morse describes as the vital organs of eliminating the waste products that accumulate in our internal bodily fluids. The kidneys filter our lymph and it filters our blood. And any waste that accumulates in any of those bodily fluids needs to come out through the kidneys and into the urine. Obviously, we can eliminate waste through our feces, but that's basically waste products that we do not absorb internally. So if it comes in through the mouth and we don't take it in, it just comes out through the anus on the other end, okay? But anything we do absorb into our bodily fluids, it gets into our blood or into our lymph, it needs to come out through the kidneys and into the urine. And that's really where disease is found. It's found inside of our tissues. And so when we look at a tissue, whether it be a tissue in the brain or the liver or the kidneys themselves, any organ in the body which is made up of tissues, these tissues, which are made up of cells, are surrounded by those two fluids, the lymph and the blood. The blood, Dr. Morse describes as the kitchen. It's delivering nutrition to our cells. So we want to make sure there's nothing interfering with that nutrition getting to our cells. So the glucose, the amino acids, the vitamins, the minerals, the hormones, which have to interact with our cells to tell them, what to do. All of that needs a nice pathway to get to those cells. And then the lymph really is taking away waste products away from the cells. And Dr. Morse describes the lymphatic system kind of as the sewage system. And if you know anything about a sewage system in a city, if that sewage is not adequately drained, things get really stinky, things get really backed up, and you don't like to be in that area because it doesn't smell good and it's kind of dirty. And we want the same thing in our body. We want all of that sewage, that lymphatic congestion, to be eliminated. And if we don't get this out through the kidneys and into the urine, it stays in the body. And when it gets backed up, it starts trapping things underneath it. So if we don't have a clean lymphatic system, it will trap the metabolic waste products that are continually being produced, because all of our cells are metabolically active. All of our cells are taking in fuel and releasing waste products just like a car would do. And if we don't let that waste get out, it accumulates. And a lot of these waste products are acidic in nature, and acids burn, and so they start burning our cells if they're trapped in any specific location. So let's say we have somebody has a pancreatic issue, and the pancreas is accumulating a lot of waste products. Those acids build up and they start to create inflammation. And in the medical field, they will call inflammation of a specific organ, they'll give it a name, like pancreatitis. And people start feeling, pain in that area, and your body will start giving you signals that, hey, something's wrong here, and you start noticing something is going on, whether it be pain or redness or swelling, maybe tightness, usually in our joints. We feel like we can't move around as much. You reach up for something and it just feels more stiff. These are red flags. This is not a normal thing for the body to experience. And if we keep going about our normal way of life and we don't make changes to address those changes we are feeling, then it gets worse. So if the inflammation is not addressed early on and we're not listening to the body, those acids are still accumulating. And the cells are trying to protect us from these acids. So one thing they start to do is the cells start to change. One change that cells do is they start to divide. And when they divide, they accumulate more cells. And this is what allopathic doctors will typically call cancerous changes. Okay, so in the allopathic medical field, they'll act as if cancer comes out of nowhere, and they use fear to control us, to come to their system. Oh, you could have cancer, make sure you're getting screened. They fear women into getting mammograms every year. And they do the same thing for men. Make sure you have your proctology exam, make sure you test for all of these things. But if you're living in a way that you're not producing these acids, and you're letting, we always produce the acids, but you're letting the acids escape the body, you really aren't going to be going into a state where you'll be creating these distressful signals. And if you learn about and you listen to your body, you can make changes so that you live a right lifestyle so that you're not continuing that bad habit turning into something worse. Does that all kind of make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so so we primarily deal with diet. Like I said, the fruits and the vegetables are really going to be the most healing foods. If I was dealing with a client that had advanced cancer or some kind of advanced chronic disease, like the allopathic calls it a disease, we just look at the symptoms really. I would really stress the most strong detox, which would be the grape level. The grapes, watermelons, these are really aggressive fruits. The water-rich fruits, the ones that are most hydrating, that when they come into the body, because these fruits have naturally filtered water within them, they pull the water out of the root system from the earth into the fruit itself. And when we ingest that, that water gets into, that naturally distilled water gets into our cells and brings with it all of the nutrition. The simple sugars, the amino acids, the phytonutrients, all of that gets in more easily when it's in that fruit bundle. So I would tell someone to go on 100% fruit, use a very astringent fruit, any of the fruits in the citrus family, the oranges, the lemons, the grapes are wonderful, and also the melons. These are great to really hydrate and heal a body, and really eliminating everything else during this time where we're trying to reverse a set of symptoms that are causing concern in the body. And we see changes happen when people go on that diet. Now, in addition to the fruit, Dr. Morris and myself, we both recommend herbs. The herbs are very tissue specific. You know, the herbal medicine has been around much, much longer than allopathic medicine. And they work with our organs to help the organs strengthen, to regenerate, and to detoxify. And Dr. Morris has put together herbal formulas that are named after the organ systems that they help. When I'm making up an herbal protocol or recommending an herbal protocol for a client, I'm always going to be using kidney herbs and lymphatic herbs, because the lymphatic herbs are taking the waste products away from the tissues, and then the kidney herbs are helping us eliminate those waste products into the urine so we get it out of the body. So those are always going to be included. I always recommend a stomach and bowel formula. We have 5 different stomach and bowel formulas, 1 through 5, really 6, because we have a 0 formula now that's relatively new. And as you get closer to the number 5, it does help to help the body have more bowel movement. So if you're very constipated, you have a bowel movement once a week, that would be a stomach and bowel number 5. But if you're having relatively good bowel movements every day, a couple of times a day, you can do a 1 or a 2, a lower number. The number 0 is really for people that have chronic diarrhea, and so that's more of a, that slows things down a little bit. So I usually put people on 1 or 2 if they have relatively good bowel movements. And then we also support the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a group of glands, which include the thyroid gland, the pituitary gland, the adrenal glands, and sorry about that, they're picking up my trash. And these glands are, I don't like to use the word, but they're kind of governing the body. They're regulating bodily functions. And we support these glands and their health, because if they're working great, our body's working great. Dr. Morris put together the Fab 4, which includes kidney, lymphatic, stomach and bowel, and endocrine. And those 4 herbs I would start with for a person, again, that's on kind of a budget and they just want to have a good set of herbs to go forward with. After I look at the health questionnaire and we look at the iris, then we can go into even more specific organs in the body that might be more helpful for a condition that you want to reverse or you want to address. So that's a kind of an overview of what we'd be doing. So when I look at your health questionnaire, it looks like right now you're having about 1 bowel movement a day. And would you say that your bowel movements are kind of easy? There's no straining?
No, definitely no straining. It's kind of, it changes every now and then, but for quite a while now, it's been quite sludgy. Like,
okay.
It's not like hard feces coming out or anything. It's kind of like this sludge.
Okay.
And it's been like that for quite a while now. So I don't know if that's what's going on with that. But it just comes out, that comes out pretty easy. And then I'm actually kind of happy because since I've started getting more healthy, I do have the movement rate first thing in the morning, like within the first half hour of waking up, which is really nice. And so I'm glad about that, because I didn't used to have that. When I was in bad shape, I was, it was all over the map. Mm-hmm. And then what I do now is I'll do right soon after a coffee enema, and then more stuff will come out, obviously.
Yeah.
And I do that almost pretty much daily. I totally love the enemas.
Okay. One thing about coffee enemas, and I know that they are definitely included in protocols like the Gerson therapy and other health practitioners. Dr. Morse finds the coffee to be somewhat stimulating. So when the coffee is introduced into the colon, into the distal portion of the colon, like the rectum and the sigmoid colon, which is typically where enemas reach, it's picked up by the hepatic portal system, and that blood, those veins in that blood system go directly to the liver. And that's the whole premise of how the coffee enema is working. It's helping to detoxify the liver a little bit. Dr. Morse finds it a little bit too stimulating. So the caffeine, whether we take it through the mouth or through the butt, he finds it a little bit too stimulating for the adrenal glands. So maybe, look at trying enemas with a tea, with herbs. For instance, we have our heal-all tea, and I think it's great to do enemas with the heal-all tea because you're getting really good tannins and other substances from the herbs themselves getting into the blood. And it's not just detoxifying the liver, but it's helping all of the tissues in the GI tract and in the digestive system.
Yeah,
that might
definitely
be something you want to try.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't need it to be coffee, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing, that's the only enema I've ever done. So, and I love it. Like, it makes me feel so good. Like, after that, I can't even have a good day without it now, almost.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I need to do that, and I feel so good afterwards. And, but I don't know if it's necessarily the coffee that's really doing it or just the enema in general. So definitely I'll look at trying out what you just suggested.
Yeah, I used to do coffee enemas. This was like 2010 when I first started doing a raw vegan diet and really focusing on my health. I did coffee enemas for a while, and I was also drinking coffee as well. So I was doing both. But then when I really started cleaning up my system, I became so sensitive to anything that wasn't health promoting, because that really happens to your body. The cleaner you are, when you introduce something that's not so healthy, you feel the effects more. Yeah. It's not one of those things that you just get used to. And that's really the problem with society today, is that they eat this crap every single day. Their body just gets used to it. So I noticed that when I cleaned up my body and I actually stopped doing all caffeine, several months after that, I did a coffee enema again, and it really enervated me. It made me like I was drinking way too much coffee, and I was just going up through, the colon. So it is a stimulant for sure. So try the heal-all tea with that. Heal-all tea is a tea that Dr. Morse also recommends for women with douching. It really helps to clean the vaginal canal and the cervical area. So if a woman has a pap smear that's abnormal and they're worried about the cellular changes there, we have seen amazing results with heal-all tea helping women with that. So douching and enemas, both great for heal-all tea.
How do you spell heal-all?
Heal, H-E-A-L, and then all, A-L-L.
Oh, I thought it was some sort of Asian name or something. I didn't realize it was something that simple. Okay.
No, and I can show you actually if we're doing screen sharing. Let me pull up some of these herbal blends that I might be recommending. Let's see if I can go back to, okay. Here it is. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, so it's just a group of herbs. They're loose leaf herbs. So you would just boil water, bring it to a boil, and then you add like a teaspoon, I think, per 2 cups of water. The directions are on there. And you let it simmer on low heat for about 10 minutes, and then strain off the herbs, and you've got a great tea that you can drink, you can use as a douche, you can also use for enemas. It's a super tea. I even give it to my pets, so I'll pour a little bit of it in their dog food, and it's just very detoxifying. And this is another great tea that a lot of times you can just start with the tea itself and do the fruitarian kind of diet. So it's one of those things I would recommend. We've got several different tea blends that we have for clients, but Heal All Tea is kind of the one. That's why it's given the name Heal All. It really addresses a lot of concerns that people have.
Great. I'll get some for sure.
Okay. So with regards to your bowel movements and them being kind of sludgy, and I'm going to address this when we talk about your iris, but you do have a little bit of a stomach ring or a malabsorption ring on your iris. It's kind of a brown layer. You can see it right outside the pupil, which is the hole in the center of the iris where light comes through. And that tells me you've got a lot of stuff caked on, just that entire lining from the mouth to the anus. Usually it's more so found in the small and large intestines. And we want to really kind of scrape that off and clean it so that you can absorb more easily. So one other product I might recommend for you is our GI Broom. And the GI Broom comes in capsules. It also comes in a powder form that you can add to juice or water and just drink. It tastes absolutely disgusting. So when I do the GI Broom, I prefer the capsules, but when I've done it as a powder form, it's really gross and you have to drink it really fast. But you want to take it 2 hours away from any other herbs or anything that you want to absorb into your body, because it pulls everything into the feces. And it's really meant to really pull against the lining of your intestinal tract, to pull that stuff that's caked on, all of those waste products that are caked on inside the intestines. And, you know, it's great for people that do like to keep their bowels relatively healthy. So I know you've done colonics in the past and you do enemas, but keep in mind the colonics and enemas are really addressing just the large intestine. The GI Broom is cleaning the entire GI tract. So you've got, you know, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, all of those tissues lining, the lining of that can get obstructed, can get, you know, full of things that would interfere with their function and interfere with absorption. And the small intestine, really, of all of our GI organs, that's where absorption is taking place. That's where we're getting the nutrition into our blood and into our lymphatic system. So the GI Broom would be a great thing to add to that. And you might notice that your bowels, the bowel movements are firming up a little bit. They're not as sludgy. And you'll start seeing some changes in your iris as well. And I'll show you what kind of changes you might see as we move forward. Okay. So looking at your health questionnaire, you didn't really have a lot of things checked off as being problematic. You did mention that you've had some depression and that you bruise easily. When you say you bruise easily, how easy do you bruise?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I just remember in the past, you know, in the last 10 years, I just noticed like I'd have bruises on me and I'd be like, where did that even come from? I don't even remember getting hit or anything. But that seems to all be gone now. I haven't noticed that at all in the last year. So if I did have some sort of issue before, I think that's kind of gone now as well.
Great, that's great. It's interesting that there is a connection between bruising easily and depression. And it's all about calcium. Calcium is the most abundant mineral in our body. We always think of calcium as being part of our bones and our skeletal system, but really calcium is maintaining tissue integrity throughout. So it lining our blood vessels, lining all of the walls of every organ. Calcium is what gives that tissue its integrity, its structure. It's not just the bones. And so if there's leaching of calcium, like in the blood vessels, for instance, when you just barely hit your arm, you can get a bruise. This happens as we age, as people age. I mean, in a healthy person, it shouldn't happen as we age. But as someone that's been eating a poor diet and they're pulling calcium out of their tissues, those tissues become weaker. And you may see that as sagging skin, as bruising easily, as prolapsed organs, or the development of hernias. These things happen as we steal calcium from our body. And the reason why we would steal calcium is because calcium is one way we buffer acids that are accumulating that cannot be released into our urine, and they're building up. So calcium is an alkaline mineral, and a lot of our metabolic waste products are acidic, so we will pull calcium to buffer that, to protect us. But when we're pulling calcium away from an organ, that organ is going to be structurally weaker. And then with regards to depression, calcium is needed to help maintain signaling in our neurons. So when we release a neurotransmitter from one neuron to the next, to release that, we need calcium. And if calcium's low, our mind becomes sluggish. So there could be some depression, there could be some anxiety. A lot of women sometimes develop postpartum depression because a lot of that calcium that they needed for helping their baby grow was taken from their own bodily organs. And so they might notice that they get depressed after the baby's born, or they might have issues like with, bruising or things like that. But if they, are eating a healthy diet throughout their pregnancy, and then after the pregnancy, especially if they're breastfeeding, we don't see that as much. So would you say that since you've changed your diet that the depression has improved, or that you're not feeling as depressed?
Oh yeah, no, it's gone.
That's great. That
Yeah,
is
it's
wonderful.
absolutely gone. It really happened after I started fasting.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I forget when I first fasted, but it was probably like 6 months ago or something. And my depression was getting better, but I still had it. And the very first juice fast I did, it was just gone. And I was like, I'm just going to fast forever. I feel amazing. Like I'm just completely different. It was within like 2 days. It was just, everything changed. And then I stopped the fast after, I forget how long, 5 days or something. And kind of went back a little bit of depression, but nothing too crazy. And then did another fast, and again, it was just gone. And I was like, this is incredible. And then I learned about the mucusless free diets,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. Morse and all kinds of stuff. And then I changed my diet to, so even when I'm not fasting, I'm eating like the foods that you were suggesting, which are fruits and vegetables, and not a lot of, thick food like pastas and breads and all that kind of stuff, and no meat and no dairy and any of that stuff. And so it's just gone now. So I don't know if it was fully related to the diet, but definitely once I changed my diet, the depression stuff just disappeared. It's absolutely gone. It's just like there's nothing of it left. It's absolutely gone.
Well, definitely, diet is a part of the whole that has made that people do as a lifestyle change. So diet is a part of that. So is, our relationships, the stress in our life, all of that plays a part. But with the depression leaving so quickly with your change in diet, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you did an intense fast. You probably released a lot of acids, and you're no longer hijacking the calcium from your nervous system. So your nervous system is communicating more easily with other neurons in the brain, with your muscles, with other organs that are controlled by that. So that's great. Okay, adrenals. I'm looking at the next section of the health questionnaire. Really nothing major there. Gastrointestinal looks pretty good. You have had stomach ulcers or intestinal ulcers in the past?
I don't know what an ulcer is exactly, but I've had stomach issues. I avoid medical doctors as much as possible, so I don't know. I've never had too much sort of diagnoses from them, but I had a lot of bloating in the last few years, like major bloating. It was like really like pretty bad, and just general uneasiness in my stomach all the time. And definitely I could tell a lot of it was related to drinking alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
That was always, as I was drinking, I could totally tell it was destroying my stomach, but I was like pretty suicidal, so I didn't care. I was just like, whatever ends this faster. Then it got to the point, well, I've had a few sort of shamanic sort of people do some things. Both of them were remotely, which is interesting. One was a Reiki sort of a thing, and he's like, you've got some sort of stomach thing that could be a problem. And then I had another shaman in another place do it, and they're like, yeah, you've got a stomach thing. And I found I've used those people for certain things, and they're almost always right. So I just sort of assumed I have some sort of a stomach thing. But again, since I've changed my diet, the bloating's pretty much gone. The sort of general uneasiness is pretty much gone. Although it does come back, and it does come back when I eat things that are not just fruit and vegetable. So when it's more like pasta or bread or all that kind of stuff, I can definitely tell it's like not good on my stomach.
Okay.
But then if I just go back to more of my better diet, it goes away. So that's why I put it down as possibly being an issue. And from what I've read about things like leaky gut syndrome and stuff, like that definitely sounds like what I had. I don't know if I still have it. I've been working on, I met a guy named Josh Mason who does something called Detox Dudes, and he recommends a number of things for the gut, and I did a bunch of them. There's a leaky gut formula and all kinds of stuff, and then changing my diet. So I think in general, if it's not fixed completely now, it's definitely a lot better, and if not on its way to being fixed. It wasn't how it was in the past, but I thought I'd put that down because, as you pointed out, I didn't have a lot of things to put on that questionnaire. As bad as I've treated my body my whole life, I've been lucky that I really, I don't know what kind of genetics I've got, but I really never seem to have any problems ever. But the stomach was always, I even get I ended up in the hospital here once in Mexico. I couldn't get rid of a stomach bug. And of course I wouldn't go to the doctors until I was pretty much dead. They had to pretty much wheel me in, and then I allowed the doctors to look at me. And I attribute a lot of that to why I'm quite healthy, actually, because I don't ever go to doctors. I don't take anything that they ever recommend. And so that's, I think, why I'm quite healthy. But I did have that stomach problem, and that was sort of like a recurring thing. It happened a few times. So there's something about my stomach that had problems. I don't know if I still do, but I thought I'd put that on the questionnaire as a potential issue.
No, I think that's a great thing to focus on, because the stomach, and when you say stomach, do you mean the entire abdomen, which would include your intestines? Are you talking about that organ right underneath your, right underneath your left rib?
I don't know really. Just general bloatingness and uneasiness in that area. It's probably more than my stomach. It's probably the whole area.
Okay, so it's probably just the GI organs, the tube, part of that tube. And the bloating, that comes about for a variety of reasons. One of the major reasons is that gases are building up, usually due to poor food combining. And if you're eating like a typical Western diet, hamburgers and, you're mixing starches with meats, all of that, your body just can't handle those food combinations. Think about nature. And when we go out in nature and we're eating from the earth, like you're sitting under an apple tree or an orange tree, you're not mixing multiple things together and eating them all at once. You're just eating one fruit. And that's, you eat as much as you want. And the beautiful thing about fruit is that people tend not to overeat on it. Your body knows exactly when to stop, and you stop. But when you start eating these foods devoid of nutrition, like chips and pasta and animal products, you're not getting any nutrition from it, and you keep eating more and more and more. And the animal products, especially the meat, it's very stimulating. A lot of people will tell me that they feel worse after they give up meat. And it's really because, when you kill an animal, like right before the cow dies and it's getting shocked, usually they have these shotguns that, knock the cow out before they slit its throat open. This rush of adrenaline goes into their body, and all of that adrenaline gets trapped in their muscle tissue, and that's what you're eating. So you're really just getting kind of an adrenaline high when you eat meat. And when you start getting off of that, your body's adjusting to that lack of adrenaline. It's kind of like getting off of coffee, and you don't feel as good for a short period of time. But then when you start getting in more fruit, you feel what it's like to be truly energized by clean food, by the fruit itself. I want to share another thing with you, and this is our food combining chart. So with fruits, it is good to try to combine them appropriately. So if you have a tendency to get bloated, You want to make sure that if you're eating 2 different foods or more than one food at a time, that you combine them appropriately. So can you see this document that I've shared with you?
Yep.
Okay. So we break fruit down into 3 different categories: acid fruit, subacid fruit, and sweet. And then the melons are all by themselves. Melons, as a general rule, you should never combine with any food. The melons, they break down so quickly in our body that if they're coupled with anything else, even another type of fruit, that will interfere with their absorption. And if anything is not absorbed right after it's broken down, it starts to ferment. And that the process of fermentation produces gases as a byproduct. And that is one thing that can cause bloating in the body. Even with the fruits, the other non-melon fruits, you want to combine those appropriately. So acid fruits combine okay with subacid fruits. So like, for instance, you can have a strawberry with some cherries, or pineapple with apple. And then the subacid fruits tend to combine okay with the sweet fruits. The sweet fruits have a higher sugar content, so bananas, figs, dates, they combine okay with the subacid. But if you combine sweet with acid, like bananas with oranges, for instance, that can slow down the process of absorption, create some fermentation. So just be sensitive to that if you do have a history of bloating, that you're eating fruits that combine well. And ideally, mono meals are the best. So just eating 1 fruit at a time and making your meal a whole bowl of grapes or a whole bowl of watermelon, that's going to be the best for you. And then we say that fruits really don't mix well with vegetables. So you know, sometimes I think the acid fruits can be okay, like in a salad, like if you're squeezing a little bit of lemon or orange onto a salad to, you know, spruce it up a little bit. A lot of people don't have too many issues with that, but it's good to eat fruit away from the vegetables. Mixing them can be problematic for a lot of people. I know when I first started getting into raw foods, green smoothies were a big thing. So people were throwing in a bunch of kale and spinach and mixing it with fruit, and then they'd have these big bloated bellies afterwards. And that's because the fruit breaks down so quickly, and you're backing it up with all of these greens. I mean, even though they're healthy foods, you're just not combining them very well. So eat vegetables away from the fruits, and then you can see, you know, foods not really meant for human consumption. Avocados are a point of, you know, debate. I love avocados, so, but some people, like if you read Arnold Ehret's books, and people that are really into Arnold Ehret, he's not a big fan of avocados. Nuts are okay, I think, in small amounts. Keep in mind that nuts have a very hard shell around them, and it takes a lot of effort to get that shell off to get to the nut. So in society today, where we can just go to the grocery store and get a big bag of nuts or seeds, we're not going through the effort to get to that, and we're eating a lot of it. And that's way too much dense food for our system, and that can really cause some problem for the kidneys. The kidneys tend to really suffer when we throw too many dense like proteins at them. But you know, if you stay in this category up here, you're going to really experience some great health there. Okay, and then as far as like if you did have ulcers, I mean, who knows? You know, I like to save the doctors for emergencies. I think that's where they shine. So if I, you know, like I fell rock climbing a couple of years ago, and my ankle was like dangling off of my leg, and it was basically.
Those are fine to go to the doctor for.
Yeah, yeah. So they're really good at putting bones back together, putting, you know, the body so that it's looks somewhat normal. And I think that they're very excellent in that regard. But for maintaining chronic issues, they really have lost, you know, the path of what brings about true health. And even the naturopathic doctors are kind of falling in line with that. You know, like in the United States, we have now licensed naturopathic medical schools, and they're licensed, so that tells you that there's a regulating governing body that determines whether or not they can, you know, dispense drugs, which they can. And that really is not true naturopathy. Naturopathic principles are basically what Dr. Morse and I do. We focus on what we can get from the earth So diet, lifestyle. And then herbs are simply just plants. I mean, it's all food, really. These are just things that you can go out and pick that people commonly call weeds. So that's all we're dealing with. But an ulcer is part of the progression of disease, the way that allopaths call disease. So you start with acids accumulating, then you go to inflammation, and then you start seeing tissue change. And if those acids are eating away at the tissue, that's an ulcer. And again, if you're not making proper lifestyle changes, that ulcer can progress to the cell dividing, so cancerous conditions, or the cell just not working, where an organ shuts down. So that can be another end result of that progression of how ill health goes about in the body. Okay, so it's great that a lot of those symptoms have lessened, but if you are having any stomach issues, try not to improperly combine your foods, and just eat one thing at a time if you can. Okay, so I'm moving on to the skin section. You said you had some blemishes, or I'm sorry, eczema, dermatitis on the nose. Are those main issues for you right now?
I don't think I said the nose, but I had, no, they're not issues anymore. When I was younger, I had eczema,
Okay.
a really weird kind. I put something on my skin when I was younger that turned out to be the wrong thing, and it turned out to be almost like poisonous. And after that, I had all kinds of skin problems for a number of years, and it was really bad. Like, it was like I almost, like, my skin was falling off my body at one point. Like,
wow.
it was absolutely horrible. And they gave me a bunch of steroids, cortisol steroids at the time, which helped. And then over time it got better. And actually, after I left Canada, for whatever reason, it all went away. So some part of it was something to do with the environment. Was just not good for my skin. And but then after I was about 25 years old or 30, when I left Canada, it all went away, and I've never had it back, except for, interestingly, as I've been doing this detoxing and stuff, it came back a little bit in the last few months, which I hear is what happens as you go back and detox. You actually go through those past symptoms again. So just briefly, for a couple of weeks, I kind of had some patches where it was in this exact same spots where they used to be, and I forgot all about the spots where they used to be, but I remember them as soon as it was there. I was like, oh man, I can't believe that came back. And it's pretty much already gone. So again, that's all seems to be gone now as well, so that's good.
That's great, and you're exactly right. We do revisit even things from years ago, from childhood. Those things now, when you clean your body out, they finally have a chance to be released out of the body. And if the skin is the easiest route, that's the way it's going to present itself. A lot of times it comes out through the kidneys or through the bowels, but the skin is another route of elimination. Okay, yeah, those steroids, even the steroid creams, those are bad news. I mean, prednisone, all of the cortisol type of hormones that they use, it suppresses inflammation, but it's not healing. There's nothing in that medication that's healing the body. It's pushing it deeper into the tissues. And I've had clients go on prednisone and they end up so much worse than they were before when they took it, you know, and it's just, I would stay away from that.
Well, I'll say when I had, my skin was at its worst, it was so bad I was taking hot and cold showers constantly to numb the pain. So I'd burn my skin and then freeze it over and over just to stop the pain. And the skin was like basically falling off my body.
Wow.
So I was very happy to take those steroids because it actually calmed it down for enough time that it could get under control. So there really was no option at that moment in time. I don't know what the heck I did. I forget what it was. It was some sort of, man, I could probably remember if I thought about it, but it was some sort of cream that I thought was going to help me with something, and it turned out I bought the wrong thing, and it was like, I don't know what the heck it was, but it was really bad. But it's all pretty much gone now, so that's good.
Okay, that's good. I mean, yeah, the drugs doctors give, again, they're great at suppressing symptoms. And sometimes, you know, when you're in a dire state, that's really appreciated. But we're looking at what happens after you go through that initial crisis. How do we maintain health after that? So I don't, you know, when I talk to clients, I don't like scaring them from going to the doctor. You know, we use the doctor, we use allopathic medicine for what they're good for, but we don't rely on them for small things. And so that's kind of the message I'd like to share with people. Okay, couple of things you put for the lymphatic system. Here we go. How's your memory doing? Is that improved at all with the change in diet?
Yeah. I would describe myself, my entire life I've described myself this way, as having a bad memory. But I don't know if it's because I just do too many things. Like, I literally have lived a life that I think is like 100 times more than what most people have done. Like, I don't know, to me it just seems normal, but like, for example, in the next 2 weeks, I'll probably be in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Iran, and I'll be doing different things in all of them. And, you know,
Wow.
like, that's just like, I don't know. But anyway, I do so many things that I just sort of assumed, well, obviously I'm going to forget somebody I met like 6 months ago in some country. I've been in 40 countries since then. I was probably drinking at the time. That didn't help. But even drinking aside, I just sort of like always sort of said my memory isn't that great. Like, I'd have friends from childhood and they'd go, remember that time you did that? And I'd be like, no, like, I really don't. But I don't know if it's I have a bad memory or I've literally done hundreds of thousands of things and there's just no possible way you can remember them all. But as I was drinking a lot in the last few years, definitely my memory was getting worse and worse, and just general brain fog was generally what it was. And now, no, that's all gone. I feel totally sharp again. So again, like, pretty much, it's kind of funny I'm talking to you now, right? Because I should have been talking to you 2 years ago to, like, you know, fix all these things. But that's kind of what I do in general. I fix most of the things on my own before I even go see somebody. My mom always used to say that about me with school. She'd be like, why do you have to know everything before you go to the school? It's like, oh, isn't that, yeah, wow, that'd be stupid of me to show up. I don't even know what I'm supposed to learn. It's like, I'm kind of weird that way. No, so everything's sort of fine with that. I feel really sharp, actually so sharp that I've been getting back into poker because I'm like, whoa, I'm so clear. I played the World Series of Poker this year. I'm like, I want to go play because I'm so able to focus and concentrate and remember things so much better than I have been in a long time. So no, that's all gone now as well.
Great, great. We do have herbs that help with memory, and you know, a lot of times when someone's dealing with any kind of head issue, whether it be memory or hair loss or graying of the hair too early, I recommend upper circulation herbs and brain and nervous system herbs, which really help to deliver more blood to that area, which can bring more oxygen, bring more nutrition, and then it detoxifies and cleans that area out as well. So if that becomes an issue, I know clients have told me with upper circ and brain and nerve herbs, their memory has improved with that. But it also could be the fact that they're just cleaning up their diet and they're not interfering with their brain's ability to retrieve, you know, memories that have been stored. Okay, let's see. Are you still snoring?
I'd have to ask my wife that. I don't know.
Okay.
You know what's kind of funny is like hearing about you bringing up the things I wrote on the questionnaire. Like, I wouldn't have written a few of them now, like, because everything's improved so much even in the last few months.
Yeah.
Sorry, the power just went out here, so I don't know. I didn't lose you, so that's good. Got some power generators here back up. So yeah, I've kind of like so many things have improved just in the last few months, so that's been great. But you just asked me something? Sorry, I lost my train of thought when the power went out here. Did you ask me?
That's okay. It was just about snoring. I mean, this is one of the things that you can check off as a symptom. And even if I tell clients, even if this is something you experienced, you know, years ago, it's good to check it off because we can discuss it. And yeah, you'll see things disappear when you change your diet.
Yeah, the snoring was definitely an issue. My wife would mention all the time when I was drinking and smoking a lot. But I think she mentioned it about a month or two ago, but she hasn't mentioned it lately. So I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's improved, just like everything else.
Okay. And how old were you when you had your tonsils out?
Good question. I don't really remember. I think it was like pretty young, like 10 or 11. I remember I was eating ice cream in the hospital, and I was all happy about the ice cream. I didn't realize, of course, what a joke that all is, as usual. But I was 10 years old. We didn't have the internet.
Okay. Yeah, the tonsils, I mean, they're lining with, there's 3 pairs of tonsils, or 3 different tonsils that line the pharynx, one up behind the nasal cavity, back of the mouth, and then under the tongue. And they're part of the lymphatic system. They're there to protect us from anything we inhale or eat. And when you remove those, you remove that line of defense. You also remove that ability to cleanse the body, so things can back up in the throat. It's funny how doctors just love to remove structures and organs in the body.
I know.
Okay, so how is your urination? You checked off burning. Is that something you've experienced in the past?
I checked off burning.
Yeah. Have you ever had burning upon urination? So it could have been something in the past.
Okay, yeah. Well, I had chlamydia once or twice, and that's how I knew I had it.
Okay.
It was kind of burning or whatever. So
Gotcha.
that's why I put that.
And are you still experiencing lower back weakness?
Oh, I put that. Yeah, because I've just noticed, as someone who's been on computers his whole life and sits all the time, just seems like my back is never very comfortable and kind of weak. I've been working on that a lot, though, actually, with yoga and all that kind of stuff. So and doing tons of calisthenics now. So that's actually improved too. It's kind of funny. Like I said, we filled out this questionnaire a couple of months ago, and a lot of the stuff's already been fixed already just from changing these things.
Right.
I also
Okay.
got a standing desk too. That helped as well. So I don't sit as often now.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes lower back can be because the nervous system, the nerves that receive sensory signals and send out information to the kidneys, they're right in that lower back region. So it could be a kidney issue, but sometimes it's also just structural, how we're sitting. But it should be strong. So
it's probably mostly just from my posture and sitting, because I sit horribly when I sit. I'm improving it now because I've improved the muscles in my core so much in the last few months that I actually find myself sitting quite good now. But pretty much my entire life I've like slumped, and it just has not been good.
Yeah, that's common. All right, and then drugs, you've mentioned you've done them all, so probably all the ones that the government doesn't like, but the ones that I think are more problematic are the ones the allopaths prescribe.
Oh yeah, totally.
Okay, so do you have any questions before we move on to the iris analysis?
No, this is the part that I was most curious about, so I want to hear this.
Okay, all right, so let me pull that up. So what I've done here, and let me know when you can see this.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at your right eye first, and then the left eye. The left eye was actually a little bit more clear, but both of them, we can analyze. So I made some notes. Let me pull those out. We'll start with the right eye. First, before we start pointing out specific structures, so a little history of the iris. It is thought of as it's thought of as a map of what's going on in the body. And, scientists have known that we have all nerves from every organ, every structure in the body end up at the iris. They never could understand why. And really, it's kind of an interesting thing, the way that the design of the body is put together, that the iris becomes a map. And you've heard the saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, it's also kind of a window to what's going on inside your body. So it's one way to look at the state of health of the body without doing all of these invasive things like, exposing ourselves to radiation or other types of scans that are quite harmful. So we're just looking at an overview of the state of health of the body, and we can look at the iris as a map. I don't know if I have my iris map available. I should have gotten that out, but I put a map over your iris so we can look at that. But before we look at the mapping of the iris, where every organ in the body has a specific location. We look at the overall state of health of your body by looking at the density and the color of the iris. In iridology, we say that there's really only two true colors that our eyes have, blue and brown. And anything that's out of those two colors is usually something is going on that's not so good. So green eyes are not really normal. They represent a stage of lymphatic congestion. And usually it's a mixture of kind of yellowish orangish mucus that has built up in our tissues that are causing our blue eyes to turn into somewhat of a green eye. I can show you these irises, and I don't know if this will come up. Can you see this?
Yep.
Okay, maybe I'll stop sharing this for a second. I'll come back to yours. This is actually a blue eye. And I don't know if you can see, there's a lot of lymphatic congestion here. There's a really thick skin ring. So the outer rim of the iris, that represents our skin. See all of this dark black?
Mm-hmm.
So this person does not sweat at all. Even if they're really hot, their body just doesn't know how to release anything because their skin is so packed up. And then this is a blue eye. This person was born with blue eyes. And then you can see all of this brown, orange. This is all a mixture of lymphatic congestion and sulfur. Sulfur, the most common way we get sulfur in the body is through antibiotics, but we can also get sulfur from like supplements like MSM. A lot of joint supplements have sulfur, but usually it's the antibiotics. And when you've taken a round of antibiotics at a young age, it just deposits in the body and it gets in the gut and then it starts leaching out all over. So these are actually...
Quick question, is MSM bad?
Dr. Morse doesn't like it. He sees it as more of something that suppresses symptoms. It can make you feel good.
Okay.
So they recommend MSM for like joint pain. And it's funny, Dr. Morse was talking about this one. He was on a radio show, and this guy who really loves sulfur wanted to debate him. And Dr. Morse is just like, in his 45 years of doing this, he's like, it suppresses. It's not getting to the root of the problem and healing. People will feel better on sulfur. And it is a natural component of our diet. I mean, we have 20 different amino acids that make up proteins. And these proteins form a lot of structures and hormones and enzymes in the body. And a lot of these amino acids have sulfur in their chemical makeup. But when you concentrate anything, like you're concentrating sulfur, it's not really health promoting. It's in its concentrated amount. It's really suppressing symptoms. It's pushing things deeper. It's not getting rid of what's causing the symptom. So, so yeah, this is a lot of sulfur. And these are eyes from someone that's been detoxing for a while. When I first started working with them, their eyes were very, very dark, this brownish color, and now they've cleared up a little bit. But, you know, the eyes do change color. So hopefully these irises will become more blue. You can even see a little bit of the blue peeking in certain locations. But for the most part, there's still a lot that they need to eliminate from their body. So I want to mention that because you have more bluish eyes that don't have a lot of sulfur. So we're going to come back to yours again.
I think when I was really young, I think I had really blue eyes, if I remember correctly. And now they look a lot greener. Yeah,
and that's because of this lymph here. Do you see, like right around here?
Mm-hmm.
That is, that's lymphatic congestion. And it's right around the collarette, or what we call the outside of the GI tract, so right before it gets into our tissues. That's where it is accumulated. Here's your left eye. Your left eye was a little bit better. But you can see, when I say better, I mean more clear. You can see a little bit more detail on the left eye. Okay. So when we just look at the iris, we'll just look at the left eye since it is a little more clear. The pupil, which is the center of the iris, this represents, well, the pupil is simply a hole that goes through the eye. And that's how light gets into the eye so it can reach the retina. And the retina in the back of the eye is where our photoreceptors are. That's how we pick up light signals and dark signals and everything else. But this right here, this ring right around the pupil represents our our GI tract, and all of our GI organs are right around here. And I don't know if you can see, if I make this a little bit larger, do you see how, as I zoom in, that it's a little kind of fuzzy right here?
Mm-hmm.
That's that malabsorption. We call that a stomach ring. And so if you were getting any sludge out in your bowel movements, that could be some of this starting to break free from your intestinal tract and starting to get released into the bowels. We can pull more of that out, though, with the GI broom. The GI broom is really good at cleaning all of this out. And it's really a good way to help take off the load from the kidneys, because the kidneys, again, are the organs that primarily detoxify our bodily fluids, the blood and the lymph. But we can also pull some of that through the bowel wall itself and get it into the feces. So that's a route of elimination, not just from undigested foods, but also pulling and cleaning those organs that line the GI tract. I'm going to zoom back out for a second. The next thing I want to show you when we look at the entire, my computer's really slow here. We look at the entire iris. So I said the skin represents the outside of the iris. And okay. So your skin is okay, and certainly it's a little bit dark, so there might be a little bit of congestion and a little bit of effect that the skin is expressing. I mean, would you say that you sweat pretty well? Would you say that you release a lot of waste products through the skin, rashes and things like that? I know we've talked a little bit about that from your past.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so there's still more skin cleaning we can do. Hot and cold showers, you mentioned that you did that as a child to help suppress the pain, but that's actually a great way to enliven and to detoxify the skin, is to do a hot and cold shower. Just go from as hot as you can go to as cold as you can go. And it's really good to start and end with cold. So always start with cold and go to hot, back and forth. Do like a minute or two. You can address specific areas. A lot of times we tell people to have the shower pointing to the back of the head, especially if they have a lot of head issues, poor memory, graying of the hair loss, sinus congestion. Right here is where the lymph drains the back of the head, and by doing hot and cold in that area, that can help to really open up those channels and to help detoxify the head. So right around here, this is, like I said, your GI tract. And there is all of that brown that we need to clean out. Now, outside of that, this is where all of your organs are going to be found. And I'll show you a map of that in just a second. The first thing I want to show you, see how there's white? So there's white overlying the blue. You kind of see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's mucus. And mucus tends to accumulate where acids are building up, because again, it's a way that we can kind of protect ourselves from the burning acids onto our tissues. So your eyes were probably very bright blue when you were young because you haven't lived as many years to accumulate so many acids that have led to the more white showing up. A lot of times Dr. Morris will say this white is associated with dairy consumption. So he has seen in his 40+ years of doing this that people that drink a lot of milk or eat a lot of cheese, they tend to have more white mucus showing up in their iris. Dr. Morris himself was, he grew up on a dairy farm, so he knows that firsthand.
Yeah, we were made to drink a lot of milk when we were kids, so that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, I will say, looking at your iris, you have really good genetics. So this is probably a big reason why you could abuse yourself physically so much with drugs and alcohol and your lifestyle, and you're still around and you're doing pretty good for the most part, The way we tell genetics, your constitution, your physical constitution, is we look at the fibers. And so from the pupil to the perimeter of the iris, there are these little fibers. And how straight they are represents how strong you are genetically, or how strong your constitution is. So I've got some clients and I don't have, this person's eyes, really, they have more of a strong constitution as well. Their fibers are relatively straight. But I've got clients where their fibers are really wavy, and they form these little pockets. And, you know, they don't go straight from the pupil to the perimeter, and they have a weaker constitution. So the more wavy the fibers are, the more likely their constitution will be weaker. And for these people, they're going to really feel the effects of illness very quickly. So when they have a cold, they have it for a couple of weeks and they're down for a while and they don't recover as quickly from illness. So that's what the constitution is telling us. And people with strong constitutions, they can get into a lot of trouble. They are the people that never go to the doctor, and that's usually a good thing. But they just push through it. They keep going. They don't stop. Whereas the people with the weaker constitution, they're in the doctor's office every other week because something new is coming up and it's really interfering with their life and affecting them more. Another thing I see when I look at your iris before we get to the map, see these rings? They kind of look like rings on a tree.
Yeah.
See one there? And yours kind of go around. We call these nerve rings. And a nerve ring is typically associated with weaker adrenal glands. So if your adrenal glands have been very stimulated throughout your entire life, whether it be from coffee consumption, stimulating drugs, even meat products, or just living a high stress life where you're constantly putting stress on yourself, we develop these nerve rings. And right here for your left eye, this is where the adrenal gland is. So I'm already seeing an adrenal gland weakness, and usually we see an adrenal gland weakness with these nerve rings. Also, these deeper lines here that radiate out, that's called a radii solaris. And when this, like this line right here, see how it kind of touches the pupil? That means that this is probably a genetic weakness. Whereas if the radii solaris, like this one, doesn't really touch the pupil, this is something that has happened to you since you've been born, so it's not necessarily genetic. So we're going to start looking at the specific organs these lie upon and discuss what structure or organ in the body would be affected. And then finally, you can see these dark spots. Mm-hmm. Those are drug deposits. These could be like medicinal drugs that you got from your doctor. They could be drugs from drugs that are considered illegal. A lot of times, though, it's iodine or sulfur deposits. So it could be a variety of things. Where they deposit in the body, that's just kind of where they got trapped. And we do see these things, you know, it takes a while, but they can go away over time. And what's interesting is that eye color does change. When I first started working with Dr. Morris, he would give me a bunch of clients to go through and to learn from. And some of these clients who had been working with him for many years, they'd have stacks of eye photos this thick. And I would just go through the history of their eye, and I would see the eye color change. So brown eyes becoming blue, green eyes becoming blue. I mean, we have true brown eyes. Usually people with darker skin pigmentation have true brown eyes, but you can even see those becoming brighter and more vibrant. They don't look as congested and dark. Okay.
I've noticed my eyes changed in the last 6 months for sure.
And people will tell you that. I mean, when somebody looks at you and you've been detoxifying and really trying to heal your body, they'll tell you you look healthy. One of the markers they're looking at is the brightness of your eye. I mean, somebody that's sick, that's down, that's suppressed, their eyes just look really kind of opaque. They're not vibrant. Someone that has true vital energy coursing through their nervous system and their bodily fluids, their eyes are going to express that as a true color coming through. So let's come to the right eye. We're going to come back there again. There's a little bit of a glare, but we can see most of the organs here. So the next slide I have is showing the map of the iris going over your iris. Okay, so you can see all of these different organs here, like the thyroid gland, the kidneys, the adrenals. We've got the chest, the lungs. This isn't exactly the iris map that Dr. Morris uses that I would use in the office when I have a client right in front of me and I can show them. but for the purpose of recording this and on video, I think it serves the purpose. So what I'll do is I'll go back to looking at your iris without the map, and then we'll point out certain areas that I'm a little bit concerned about. Like for instance, right here, this is a little dark. So when we go to the map here, you can see that dark area is going right through your adrenal glands, okay? And we have the nerve rings, which the nerve rings showed up a little bit more on the left eye. I think it's because that was a better picture. But we know you have nerve rings on the left side. You probably have them on the right side. But you definitely have an adrenal weakness. So one thing I would recommend is either an adrenal herbal formula. Dr. Morse also has adrenal glandulars. Now, glandulars could be a point of concern for people that are ethical vegans because they do come from animal sources. But some people that have really weak adrenal glands, and the adrenal glands are just really bringing them down. So if your adrenals are really low, your energy is going to be so low. And when you detoxify and you remove all of the stimulants from your diet, your adrenals get even lower and people can't function. So in those cases, we might suggest an adrenal glandular. I like to reserve those for when it's really needed and I need to get the person out of bed in the morning. They don't have the energy to get up and going. For you, I don't think we needed a glandular at all. The top number of your blood pressure was 110. So your adrenals are doing pretty good. And we like to see 120 for that top number. That's a really strong number that says that the adrenals are working at their best. So yours might be a little bit under, but I think an adrenal herbal formula would be great for you. Okay?
Okay.
We can also throw in a little bit of licorice root. We used to have licorice root in our adrenal herbal formula, but we took it out because for people with high blood pressure, it can cause the blood pressure to go up even higher. Your blood pressure is not elevated, so I think we can do a round of adrenal plus licorice to really help you increase your energy, and you'll really feel the effects of that. Licorice root is an amazing adrenal herb to add to our adrenal formula. Okay, coming back to the right eye again. Again, this yellowish accumulation, it's right outside the bowels in the area of what we call the collarette. This also represents our autonomic nervous system, which is the nervous system that controls things that we're not consciously aware of, like heart rate, breathing rate, things like that. And so you've got a lot of orange there that we want to clean out. And a lot of that can get pulled through the bowel wall. So we can, with like products like the GI broom, really start astringently pulling that, but also supporting the kidneys and the lymphatic system that will get it out through the urine. Where it's kind of accumulated in this area over here, even though the light's kind of covering some of that, we can see a little bit of maybe the pancreas. This is the small intestine. We could have some congestion there. And another area, I'm a little, well, actually, I'm going to go to your left eye because I saw a lot more on that one. So let's go to the left eye. Okay, so this one's definitely more clear. This big line right here, this one I was kind of concerned about. This is a deep radii solaris. It's touching the pupil, so this is definitely something you might have had since you were born. It's more genetic. And when we look at that, that's going right through the area of the heart. Have you noticed any heart issues at all? And this is not to scare you at all, okay? It just says that the heart might be an area that we want to detoxify, to protect. It could be a site where if we are experiencing anything like an illness, the heart tends to be the organ that tells us. Maybe you had heart palpitations, or you would notice the heart flutter. Have you noticed anything like that?
No, nothing.
Okay, good. Now in this area, we also have the bronchioles. We also have going into the chest. So it's not necessarily the heart, but it is going through that area. And then the other line right below that is also genetic is the thymus. So if we come back here again, this line right here seems to be going through the thymus. And again, it also could be the lungs somewhat. Okay, there's another line right here. This line right at the 12 o'clock mark, this is our animation lifeline. And I know you said at one point you were just kind of, you didn't care what you put into your body. You were just kind of living this suicidal kind of attitude. This line represents that history of that feeling. Okay, a lot of times when I have clients that have a really deep radii solaris at this 12 o'clock mark, that is their will to live, their will to kind of, you know, add gust to their life, to make something of themselves. Or are they more reckless, or are they just, they don't care anymore? So this has a deep line going through it, and there's also some mucus there that we want to eventually clean up as you know, eat a healthier diet. This area right here is kind of dark, so when we look at that on the map, this is the area of your shoulder. So is your left shoulder, has that ever been problematic for you?
My left shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. I tend to pull it quite a bit whenever I'm doing chest exercises like bench press. It seems to always be, they seem really tight, actually, my shoulders, and I quite easily can pull something in my shoulder. And actually, yeah, it is my left shoulder.
Okay. Yeah, that's just, it's a weak area. So see how this is kind of, this whole area is a little bit darker. So darker areas tend to be more genetically weak, or not even, it's not even something from birth. It's just a weak area that has maybe accumulated more acids, but it could be a site where you tend to get more stiff. We also see it over here. See this line right here, it's a little bit darker. And when I put that on the map, that's going to be in the area of your trachea, in your throat. Do you notice like you're clearing your throat often, or you tend to get sore throats, or you have issues with your vocal box, your vocal cords?
Yeah, like even right now, like I can tell it's sort of clogged up or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Like my voice changes a lot. It seems to, I don't know what it is about my throat, but
well, you had your tonsils removed when you were young, and the tonsils are basically lymph nodes on the surface of your throat, and they're helping to clean that area out. And if you remove the lymph nodes, or if you remove the tonsils, you're not cleaning out those acids as easily as someone that still has those structures. And so more acids accumulate, more mucus surrounds that, and you just tend to have more of a weakness in that area over time. So there's that animation lifeline. We talked about it already. Let's see. Okay, we talked about that. So your left adrenal also had a weakness. So right here, this little dark spot, that's the left adrenal gland. Okay. So the nerve rings plus the adrenal, I would definitely recommend some adrenal support. I think our adrenal herbal formula with licorice is going to be great. Now, some of these drug deposits, like here, here, and here, where they reside, where they end up showing up on the iris, can tell us about the state of health of that organ where they show up. So the one right here, that's in the area of the cervical spine, which is the neck. So do you notice like your neck maybe getting stiff?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And that too could be, you know, when those drugs were introduced into your body, you just had a hard time clearing them out because, you know, the tonsils were taken away from you. We have the one right here. This is in the area of the urinary bladder. We talked about the burning with urination in the past. So a lot of times when there is burning with urination, that's the body trying to get rid of a massive amount of acid. So it could be more of a systemic issue, but it could also be the acids that are in the lining of the bladder itself, and you're eliminating those. So the bladder could be an area of weakness for you. But you would say overall that, you know, like when you go to the bathroom, that you definitely can evacuate completely. You're not noticing any pressure down there.
When I urinate?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no problems.
All right. Okay, we had a little dark spot right here. And that's in the area of the groin. So the groin more so on the left side is showing an area for a drug deposit. And then right here, I want to look at that spot. This is getting into the left ear, kind of behind the left ear. There's a bump behind your ear called the mastoid process, which is just a natural structure on the skull. But there are mastoid air cells underneath that bump that for some people they can have fluid buildup. There might be pain back there. Do you notice anything?
No.
Okay. Now, as far as your stomach is concerned, I know that was a point of weakness, just with the bloating and what they thought, or what you thought could have been an ulcer, the pain. When we look at the color of the intestinal organs, see how this is a little bit darker compared to outside of that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of this is lighter because there's a lot of mucus accumulation. So all of this white, we definitely want to remove and eliminate. And as you start to enhance elimination and you're strengthening the kidneys, you're getting the lymphatic system to pull all of these acids out, that mucus protecting that tends to go away. So the eyes will get brighter and more blue. But it's definitely darker in this inner ring. And that can mean that your GI organs are just a little bit more sluggish compared to outside of the GI tract. Same thing we see on the right eye. It's a little darker here compared to the outer ring. So the GI broom, I would definitely recommend to clean that out. Also, if the stomach is closer to the pupil, and then outside of that we have the small and large intestine. But the stomach right here, right next to this malabsorption ring, if that's darker, that could be low acid. And a lot of times people think that they get heartburn because they have too much acid in the stomach. Usually it's the opposite. They're not producing enough acid. They can't break their foods down appropriately, and proteins start to putrefy, starches start to ferment, and that produces very acidic gas products that can burn the lining of our organs there. So by enhancing the function of these organs, everything comes into line and you don't experience those symptoms. Okay, so other things we can look at, like where we see darker patches of the mucus, like right here, there's a lot of mucus in this line. So I can see what that represents. Oh wait, that was the wrong eye. Let's go to the left eye. So this is the medulla. Again, this is kind of the back of the neck, maybe the upper part, getting more into the cerebellum. Do you ever have any issues with kind of dizziness? Do you ever feel kind of like a little off kilter?
From time to time, not too much.
Okay. By cleaning this out here, and that's right in the back of the head, right kind of where the vertebral column attaches to the skull, that will help with any kind of balance issue. But all of this needs to be cleaned out. All of this white mucusy stuff and this orange stuff, it all needs to kind of get pulled out, whether it be cleaned lymphatically through the kidneys or pulled through the bowel wall directly. Both are routes of elimination. I don't think I see anything else that's standing out for me. Do you have any questions about the iris specifically that you want to ask me?
No, I think that's good. I do have a related question just
Sure.
about kidney filtration. The last time I checked it was a few weeks ago, and it wasn't filtering.
Okay.
There was nothing. I did a dry fast for 24 hours, and I didn't check it too well, but I definitely noticed there was stuff in there, which I never noticed before. So that seemed to do it. But then I stopped the dry fast, and then I checked afterwards, and my kidneys weren't filtering again. So I haven't checked recently. I should check, but I would guess that they're not really filtering right now. So I was wondering what you think about that and what I need to do.
Well, yeah, dry fasting is something that's excellent to enhance kidney filtration. And so, and when we filter the lymph specifically, that's what we're seeing in the urine. We're pulling all of those acids and that mucus out of the lymph. It shows up in the urine. So doing dry fasting, I recommend, up to 36 hours. I know people go longer than that, but doing that intermittently is fine. Try to concentrate when you are eating foods kind of in the middle of the day. So, you know, you can do like an 18-hour daily dry fast by just not eating after 6 p.m. and then waiting until the next day, like afternoon, like noon or so, to eat again or to take in anything by mouth. But, you know, as we take in these herbs, sometimes that's the thing that really kicks on kidney filtration. So supporting the adrenal glands specifically, because the adrenal glands, one of the many functions they have is that the adrenal glands sit right on top of the kidneys, and they release hormones that help the kidneys filter. So if we're supporting the adrenal glands, we'll be supporting kidney filtration. And then taking the herbs for the kidneys too will help as well.
Okay, great.
So you might see a difference with the filtration in the urine after you start doing the herbal protocol.
Okay, great.
But the dry fasting is going to be excellent for that. And also a lot of the astringent fruits that'll really start pulling some of these acids out of your tissues. So challenging yourself to a grape fast or an orange fast, those will really help. I like the combination of grape and lemon is super.
I drink organic grape juice every morning. I actually intermittent fast every day.
Okay.
So I stop around 9 at night and I start around 2 in the afternoon. And the only thing I'll have during that period is in the morning I'll have some organic red grapefruit juice. Is that okay in your estimation?
Yeah. Well, grapefruit juice is very astringent, and even if you do the grape juice, what you can do to really make it more potent is to, I have like a little handheld citrus press to take lemons or limes and add like the juice of 3 lemons or 3 limes, squeeze that directly into that juice, because lemon is highly astringent and lime is right up there with it.
Okay. Yeah, we got lots of limes here in Mexico, so I'll put some of that in.
Yeah, so do that. If you can do that every morning or do that for a couple of days in a row, do nothing but, you know, grapes with lime or lemon, you'll see a lot of filtration. And mixing that with dry fasting is very powerful.
Great.
But I'm glad you brought that up, yeah, because kidney filtration is a nice marker for how well the kidneys are functioning. So, you know, I've had clients where I've worked with them and it took up to 6 months for them to get kidney filtration, for them to see anything in their urine. They were just so backed up and their kidneys weren't really, I mean, the kidneys are always going to remove something, but when we see it in concentrated amounts like we do when the urine is showing that cloudiness, that's really when you know you're detoxifying.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I'd say definitely I have adrenal things, because if you really looked at my life for the last at least 10 years, it was smoking, drinking, coffee, being in a different city every couple of days, travel, stress, work stress like crazy. So my adrenals are probably pretty shot. So if I can get on this herbal stuff and do the stuff like you just mentioned, then maybe I can get them kind of back and running better.
Yeah, and you know, the herbal protocol that I'll write up for you, you'll notice it, I'll email it to you. And I like to rotate the herbs out. So we have like 4 different kidney formulas. We have 5 different stomach and bowels. We have 4 different lymphatic formulas. And then we have endocrine formulas. We have the gland tonic. We have the adrenal herbs. And if we switch those up, it's a little bit more powerful, because we can reach kind of we can reach a level where the organs start to get adapted to the herbs. And if we switch it with another blend, it's kind of always reinvigorating that organ or that tissue we're trying to support. So we'll be on the adrenal glands with licorice. We might then try it without the licorice. We might switch to the gland tonic, which is a really powerful endocrine formula that has velvet deer antler in it, which is a great herb to help energize and strengthen the body. So we'll mix it up quite a bit, but I'll definitely keep the adrenal glands in mind for you as I'm writing up your protocol to make sure that those are going to stay powerful, and more importantly, helping the kidneys work as maximum as they can at the maximum level that they can to help get these acids out of you.
Yeah, interesting. Since I've changed everything in the last year, I've got tons and tons more energy than I've had in the past. That's for sure. But I still have times in the day where I just slow right down. I need a siesta. just low energy in general, just everything gets all foggy. I'll go and sleep, and then I'll feel better, and then I'll get back, and then within a few hours I'll kind of be back into the fogginess and all that. Do you think that's sort of generally adrenal related as well? That if I improve my adrenals, that might improve a bit?
Well, it's all part of how we go through phases of detoxification too. I mean, I tell people that have been on coffee and other stimulants that they're going to get pretty tired. That's part of detoxification, because as we pull these acids away, especially the ones that are more stimulating in nature, we see this true state of health of certain organs. And so adrenals, it's not uncommon for the blood pressure to drop because we're pulling all of those stimulating acids out of the adrenal tissue, and they get lower in their function, and you're not feeling as energized. But as you go through deeper and deeper layers of removing accumulations in the body kind of in its infinite wisdom doesn't try to take everything out at once. It does it in phases. So you might feel good, and I've read books where they say it's a 7-day phase. So like every 7 days you might feel like a detox set of symptoms, depending on what area of your body you're cleaning out. And that has to do with energy as well, because the energy is going to be the function of the adrenal glands. So that's just proof that you are detoxifying those. You're getting stuff out of them, and they might be going through a period where you need to rest. And a lot of times I'll tell my clients that resting is a good thing. Getting a good amount of sleep is also very important, because the kidneys and the adrenals, really the kidneys more so than any other organ, they do their best detoxification at night. Like at 1 to 3, don't quote me on this, but I think it's between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., or it could be between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. I have to go back and look. But somewhere in that field, that's when they're doing their most work. And if people aren't getting enough sleep at night, they're interfering with their ability to really clean their bodies out.
Oh, that's interesting. So I've definitely been sleeping a lot more in the last year. I haven't looked at it as a bad thing, because I love sleep. Like even when I take a siesta, like that's my favorite thing to do. I totally love it. So I'm not saying I want to get rid of that. I'm just wondering how that ties into what's been going on. So what you're saying is it's possible that my body is actually detoxing, and so it just needs that extra rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And we kind of just go with the natural flow of the body and how it's presenting itself. So if your body's telling you that it needs to rest, then respect that and try to take it slower. When I talk to clients, I always ask them what they do for a living, and do they have a chance to kind of, take it easy for a period of time. Some people can't, but other people, if they can, don't be afraid to just take the day off and just stay at home and let your body relax. Because it's during that time where it needs to rest that it's probably eliminating something. And it's just using all of that energy for elimination, and you don't have that energy then to go out and do your daily activities.
Interesting. Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
No, I think that's good. So I definitely want to get on these things. I've had trouble getting them into Mexico.
I know.
So I got to figure out for the next thing that I get shipped how to do it. But I've got people who smuggle stuff and all that kind of stuff, so it should be all right. But yeah, other than that, yeah,
well,
I just want to get on
let me share one thing with you really quick. If you go to our website, Dr. Morse's Herbal Health Club, and you go to the shop section, like for instance, I'll pull up tinctures. You can go to any of our herbal formulas. And if you can't get the herbs right away from us, go to the herbal formula and look at the ingredients. I would typically tell someone to get like the first 3 or 4 ingredients at any herb shop that you have locally, and you can make your own mixture. Obviously having all of them is going to be really helpful. And then I would add to this, maybe some licorice root as well, and mix them, in even amounts in a little tincture bottle, and then just take 1 full dropper 3 times a day of that mixture until you get the herbal formulas from us. But I would go through here, and I would go for you. I'd focus on the adrenal formula, on a kidney and bladder, on a lymphatic. We also have the dry herbs and capsules. The liquid herbs are a little bit more powerful, but the dry herbs do have benefit, especially for the stomach and bowels. And in the stomach and bowels, we don't want them to be absorbed as quickly, so the dry herbs tend to stay in the GI tract and do their work there. But we have them in both capsules, in tinctures, alcohol tinctures, or glycerin tinctures. I think the alcohol tinctures are a little bit more powerful than the glycerin, but some people just don't like the taste of the alcohol. So the glycerins are there, and those are great for like dogs and cats and kids. So there's a lot of things you can choose from. But yeah, you can always go to an herb shop and just kind of get what you need if you're having a hard time getting them to where you are. Because we deal with clients all over the globe. We have some of our distributors. I know we have a distributor in Europe. So if you are traveling, our botanicals, I think, is in Greece, I want to say. And you can go to ourbotanicals.com, and if you're going somewhere, have it ship it to where you're going to be in Europe, because they ship throughout Europe for us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to Europe. So it's Our Botanicals?
Yes, OURBOTANICALS. So it's all one word, ourbotanicals.com. And we have distributors somewhere in Europe. So that's typically what I would tell any of my European clients to order through, and they'll get their herbs a lot faster.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm on it right now. So will you be recommending some stuff that I should buy after this? Or, because I wrote down already what you told me I should get. Mm-hmm. So
I will send you, I'll probably send you a 10-week protocol.
Okay.
And I'll just send it to your email address or however we've been communicating. And it will tell you how often to take each herbal formula. And we'll rotate it probably every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks. I kind of reintroduce a new set of herbs. And this will get you through 10 weeks. And then after the 10-week part, we can have another consultation as a follow-up, or you can just, message me or email me to let me know how you're doing. And if you want to continue with the herbal protocol, I could recommend new herbs. Or, just as a mainstay, just do something like Heal All Tea or the Fab 4, which we sell as kits on our website. Or there's even the 14-week protocol that Dr. Morse designed, which is not really specific for any individual, but it's just a nice general detox people can do for 14 weeks. So there's a lot of options where you go from here. But I will, as part of your consultation, it does include a protocol, an herbal protocol written up for you.
Awesome. I'll look forward to seeing it and getting on it.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed that. If you watched the whole thing, that was pretty long. But if you did, all the links are down below to how to sign up to get your own consultation with Dr. Moores or with Patty directly, an anarchist, or as well to check out what she sent to me as herbs to take and what she suggested I do. I'll have that all in the links down below. So I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did some of this stuff and it helped you down the road, definitely mention it in the comments here in the future so that people can know it helped them, it helped you, and then they might want to try it as well. So hope you enjoyed it.